Okay, it's 1:30. I'd like to call this meeting back to order. And our 1:30 agenda item is a meeting with the NDEP concerning solid waste landfill permit, SW 495 RED00. Concerning questions relating to the change of ownership of the land for the landfill site and the effect on the permit. This is discussion only. And good afternoon. I appreciate you guys coming down to be with us. If you could state your name for the record, and we will get started.
Sure. This is Cassandra Joseph. I'm the Deputy Attorney General with the Nevada Attorney General's Office.
Eric Noack, Chief of the Bureau of Waste Management.
Great. Okay. You guys want to go ahead and
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to thank you, first of all, for having us here today. Eric and I are here, as you know, in response to your invitation so that we could answer some questions for you regarding the permit that was issued on the Class 1 solid waste disposal site permit number SW 495 RED00. We are in receipt of the written questions, and we have answers to those. We understand your concern, and we want you to know that we provide you with the facts that support that the permit is valid. Was validly issued, and also the reasons for the issuance of the modified permit, which I have copies of, and I'll just let folks know they are up on this podium up here, copies of the letter that went out from NDEP with the modified permit. Now, if the commissioners would like, I've also got sufficient copies for each of you. I don't know if you're interested. Okay. Did you say yes? Would you like to? Let me describe the letter. Right, so that is a copy of the letter that NDEP sent with the modified permit. First, I want to start with we would like the Mr. Chairman and the commissioners to understand that at the last meeting, we understand that there was some disappointment by some of the commissioners that we weren't in attendance then. However, at that time, there was only, I think, a couple of days' notice of the meeting, and we didn't have questions from the commission, so we just wanted to let you know that we weren't here, not because we didn't want to be here at that meeting, but simply for logistics and scheduling reasons, and the short notice that we could not be here. So I wanted to make that clear on the record. I also wanted to just note that, as most of you know, this permit was litigated at length in various forms and jurisdictions. Today, we do not intend to revisit all of those issues. We're here really to answer questions very specific to the ownership issues. So we would like to, keep that on focus. So some of the questions I know that are included in the packet, went into some of the other substantive issues, but we don't intend to get into those issues today regarding G-Friendly's report, for example. Really, we're here to talk about the ownership of the operator and the landowner.
Question, Mr. Chairman, if I may, with all due respect, Chief Refugee's report was Humboldt County's official comments, and we have retained the right to know if it was received. If it was, why can I find no notice of it being considered? That is a question, and frankly, I believe it should be answered.
Well, I'm happy to answer. I think Eric can answer to it. It was received. It was considered. It was discussed during the SEC hearing. It's part of the record, so it was certainly received, and it was part of that case before the SEC. So that is, in fact, the case. I don't know if you've got something else to add.
Yeah, for the record, Eric, many of the responses in our response to comment documents were directly attributable to Dr. Rich's report. Those were more lengthy. We went thoroughly through that report and went through his comments in our response to comment document.
I missed it. I did not see any reference to it. And the SEC is different. The SEC is an appeal.
Yes, I'm sorry for the confusion, but because what we chose to in our response to comment document is not to refer to by name to any of the commenters all the way through the entire document. So no commenter was referred to by name, we just list the comment and then response to it. That's why
I think it was important to refer by name comments from the Board of Commissioners of Humboldt County.
No, we just took the convention to not refer to any commenter by name.
Okay, so what we'd like to do today is start by explaining that a modified permit has been issued. And as I explained, I've got copies, they're available there. The new modified permit does two things, both of which are relevant to your questions of today. The first thing it does, I'll begin with number one, it corrects the name of the operator listed on the permit from Recology to Jungo Land and Investments, Inc. And I'll briefly explain the facts surrounding this change. On the face of the permit, the operator is identified as Recology. And Recology was not the operator permit, it was misidentified as the operator permit on the face of the permit. It's a very simple correction, if you will, in the modified permit to identify it by the correct name. If you look at the application itself, the application always identified the operator as Jungo Land and Investments, Inc. The financial assurances were provided by Jungo Land and Investments, Inc. Jungo Land and Investments, Inc. was always intended to be the operator permit. It was a simple, almost an error, just misidentifying the entity. Very easy correction and has absolutely no effect on the entity that's responsible financially or otherwise. In that regard, it's also Jungo Land Investments, Inc., who is the permittee on the conditional use permit, so there's some consistency there as well. Specifically, NDEP has authority to correct the name on the permit under section 2.2 of the permit, as well as under NAC 444.643. And both of those allow NDEP to fix something such as this, which is, again, a simple misidentification by name. The second thing the modified permit does is it corrects the landowner and identifies New Nevada Lands LLC as the landowner instead of Nevada Land and Resource Company LLC. Now, New Nevada Lands LLC is a wholly owned subsidiary of Nevada Land and Resource Company LLC. And the land was transferred, as pointed out in the Commission's letter to NDEP, on or about November 30, 2011. Now, at the time that the application was submitted, the application identified Nevada Land and Resource Company LLC as the landowner, which was accurate at that time. Therefore, the regulations were complied with, because regulations require that the application identified the landowner and the operator was correctly identified. There was a transfer, and the transfer, when NDEP was notified of the transfer of land, then NDEP immediately took action to correct the permit to identify the accurate landowner. Now, what's key here is that the landowner in this case was not providing the financial assurances. Okay? The operator, who never changed, was providing financial assurances. So when you have a transfer of the landowner who's not providing financial assurances, again, it's a very easy modification that means just naming the correct landowner. This transfer is allowed under section 2.2 of the permit, as well as under NAC 444.643. What's also significant, in addition to the fact that it's the operator and not the landowner in this case that is providing financial assurances, is that the new owner, so really the owner is identified on the permit so that you have the owner of the land being notified as to what's happening on that land. Okay, so that they are informed as to what's happening on that land. In this case, there's no question that the new owner was informed as to what was happening on the land because they assumed the lease that the previous owner had at the time that they made the transfer. So there was an assumption of the lease as well as the option of purchase at the time. So there's no question that the new owner of the land was on notice as to what was happening on the land. The new landowner is also been corrected. Again, because there was no change in financial assurances, it's a easy fix for NDEP to issue a modified permit. I think that with those two changes in the issuance of a modified permit, most of the questions posed have been answered and hopefully explained here. I think we've got some specific questions that I'm happy to read through that you've submitted, and I can do that now. But generally, what I've just described answers many of the questions that were posed in writing. So at this point, do you have anything to add? All right, so at this point, I'm happy to go through the written questions. I kind of go back to the commission to let me know how you would like to proceed. You can go through the written questions, or if you feel that those have been answered, then we can move on to other questions.
Go ahead.
I have a couple of questions. You brought up a couple of things in my mind as you explained what happened. I'm wondering, how common is it for a state regulatory entity to initiate changes to a permit without being formally requested to do so by the applicant themselves?
Again, Eric Nowak, it's not uncommon because a lot of times these sorts of things are found during our inspection processes. In fact, checking financial assurance and checking ownership and an operator, those items are checked during our inspections as we go on into the future. And just in this, when we see during the inspection, if we find that a name has changed, as companies do change hands, then we unilaterally will issue a modification in response to that, just as we've done here.
So you're on, so basically the applicant is on autopilot. He has no responsibility along that line at all.
No, that's not true. They do have a responsibility to notify us and report as well.
My other question had to do along that line, and that is under 2.2 of that permit, it states that the applicant will contact NDEP with the change in ownership, and that you would be the first people that obviously would be informed on that. That obviously didn't happen. My curiosity, and I guess I would have to back up a little bit in trying to wrap my head around this thing, trying to figure out what happened with it. I ran across one of the letters that you received in the public comment period back in December actually stated exactly the issues at hand. Number two, you had another, there was the applicants themselves, Ecology actually submitted a letter wanting you to clean up that particular problem with the ownership and names on those permits that they actually picked up on their own. And I guess my concern has to do with due diligence. And obviously, this county and all us folks that live here with this landfill are depend on due diligence. And the notion that we're going to, our expectation was that everything would be handled according to the rules of the road, so to speak. Our expectation is the permittee is going to do what he says he's going to do. Our expectation is that NDEP is going to do what they're mandated to do under the law. And I quite frankly, coming out of the end of this thing, I had that, and that's one of the reasons I asked for this meeting, is that I think from a due diligence perspective, that's a big deal. Would you not agree?
I do agree. And I don't have a explanation exactly, so looking back on what happened, when the comments came in December, we had just recently completed that analysis, which was prior to the land changing hands. And so I think what happened to staff, looked at that and said, we just did that analysis. And so they relied on that analysis to redo it. They thought that they had sufficiently done the analysis, but it happened to predate the November date of the land changing hands. And again, I don't offer that as an excuse, and it's just, that is how it played out.